The most significant phase was when I was a freshman student at at Berkeley, and it was during the free speech movement was occurring during that time, and I didn't know what was going on. My first experience with the free speech movement was uh, crossing a picket line to go to my classes, and so I'd never seen this picket line, and I was, being the good diligent student I was, said, well, I don't know what's going on, but I've got to get to my section. It was a section of a class, and so I crossed the picket line. People kind of were yelling, and I was thinking, what's going on here? And I go into my class, and the TA is not there because he's part of the picket line, and about half the students are not there because they're on strike. So I go, okay, well, so then I figured I've got to find out what's going on, and that was my first kind of aha moment that. When a picket line is thrown up or something like that, there's no such thing as being neutral. You are either supporting or you're against it. But you can't kind of sit there on the side and act like, well, this doesn't involve me. So I began to find out more why the students and my TA and others were kind of organizing the strike, and I understood the issues. I said, well, that's not right. The administration shouldn't be able to decide what speakers are going to be there and approve, kind of where you can have things. And so I joined the strike, and was out picketing, and that was my first kind of action politically. And so that really, kind of opened up a different thing in the conversations I had with people, and it got me to change my major. And so I was a struggling first-year student in mathematics as a major, doing awful, and trying to figure out in my second year of calculus what the world this was. And but I got so engaged in talking with other activists and others in terms of what was going on. So I changed my major to political science in my sophomore year, and never looked back. I mean, just from a GPA perspective, I was a struggling C student at best, kind of thing. I was, after my freshman year, I had a 2.2 GPA, and I was so happy that I hadn't flunked out, that I said, great, I didn't flunk out. But then after I kind of got involved in political science as a major, I just kind of came alive. I started learning more, I started reading more, I started kind of getting in arguments, and that's where I met Yvonne, because she was much more conservative than I was, and so we would have these, and these conversations about politics and things like that, and so it was a very enlightening and engaging time for me. And so, but my initial involvements after the free speech movement were kind of focusing on the civil rights movement and what was going on in terms of voter registration in the South. This was right after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 had been passed, and so focusing a lot of those issues, and the Vietnam War, and beginning to get involved in anti-Vietnam War activities. But for the civil rights movement, it was I saw myself as kind of this liberal that was supporting voter registration in the South, and people going down to the South to register voters. I saw things as a black-white issue, and how rights were being denied to blacks in the South, etc., but didn't see that affecting me directly. I thought it being supporting, getting more civil rights for African Americans. And that it was not until later, like I think probably 1966, that then Stokely Carmichael, who became Kwame Ture, issued the call, with H. Rap Brown for Black Power. And I was involved with SNCC, Student Nonviolence Coordinating Committee, and that was really sent some shockwaves. Because, he was talking about, we really need to focus on black power, which is engaging and empowering our communities. And he was talking to the white folks involved, because if you really care about creating change and, for our movement, instead of organizing buses to the South, maybe you should engage in conversations with your parents and your relatives and your friends and get them to understand of what's going on, et cetera. So organize within your own communities to do work. And so, he gave a speech on campus around that. And so I'm sitting here going, well, that kind of makes sense. I said, but where's my community? So I was thinking, this is organizing with other white people, kind of thing to, kind of do that. And so, that was where I was having my own sense of identity, because I didn't see there was an Asian American community to be organizing out of. And Berkeley at that time, unlike the current time, I think Asian Americans are probably less than 5% of the campus. And so there wasn't a sense of engagement, and most, and the Asians that were on the campus identified as Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. There wasn't a sense of Asian, or there was no Asian American identity at that time, but even any sense of, that we should be working together, that there was some common links that we had. And so that was kind of, where I was being.